And maybe I'm just going to go push it out to LinkedIn to start, so we can go ahead and get started. And and that will go up there, and it's good. It's going to take a second for the stream health to pick up. LinkedIn to start, so we can go ahead and get started. And you can hear that echo back, right? And that will go up there, and it's good. It's going to take a second for the stream health to pick up. LinkedIn. All right, here we go. Oops, whose little sound is that? I'm going to mute Dean there. All right. We should be live now here on Boss Rush this morning. So we're just gonna wait. I'm gonna see when people start chiming in there. And yeah, we have a couple of folks that have left the scene. Yeah, there's Mark coming back in. So Mark will be up on screen here in a minute. But yes, this is Boss Rush, and again, we're playing around with the format here. But we decided to start doing this, video feed instead of just doing it in audio. And so we're going to continue improving the show here for you all. And so happy to have everybody coming in on Fridays. Oh, and we have our fourth host, Susan. So I am going to go ahead and populate the scene here with Susan's information. So give me 1 second here. We're going to go ahead and bring the rest of our hosts in today. Mark went ahead and turned off his camera because I guess he's eating or something. But yeah, here we go. We're about to. Now you're back over. All right, let's go ahead and bring everybody into the scene here for today. Hey, everybody. Oh, Mark, you're still not on camera, but we get some kids cheering for us now that we've got people coming in there. So yeah, my name is Chris Melisinos. I'm the principal evangelist for video games here at AWS, and my co-host with me, of course, as always, Mr. Takahashi. Oh, wait a minute. Dean is muted because I had to mute him. Now he's unmuted. Go ahead, Dean. Introduce yourself.
Oh, hi, everybody. I am Dean Takahashi, lead writer for GameSpeed at VentureBeat, and I'm hosting the GameSpeed Summit Conference next week. Yay!
Yay! Yeah, where's my applause?
Yay! And it is Monday and Tuesday, and we got 118 speakers, including coming this week.
Holy cow.
Yay.
That is a lot.
That is a lot.
Yeah. 48 sessions.
It's a ticket, you know.
It's at the Marina Del Rey Marriott in Los Angeles.
Oh. Very nice. Very nice. And then also with us, who's going to jump in next?
You. Oh,
no, I already did.
Mark's got
Mark's chewing.
You're muted. Good, Susan, let me hear you.
Am I?
No, you're good now. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Hey. So it's been a long day. I started my day on becoming a dual citizen, which is cool. And I started the day.
Whoa.
My biometric stuff. So and we had an all hands team thing late into last night. So, and I was meetings all afternoon, so my brain is a little bit fried. But I'm Susan Cummings, and I'm so happy to be here with three of my favorite people. And I've been in games for too long, probably 20 some odd years. And I run Tiny Rebel Games, a indie studio in the UK building Predators.
Yay! And congratulations.
And I cannot wait for GameSpeed Summit, where I am speaking on Tuesday. I'm looking forward to it. I'm totally not going to guilt Mark Delora into booking a plane ticket and coming down. I know Chris can't come. Mark?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got that. We had a meeting here in Seattle this week, and I got that from all sides. Somebody was like, "Here's a code. It's going to be a little cheaper if you use this. You got to go. Why would you not go?" I'm like, "I know. Why am I not going? Maybe I should
Why are
go."
you not going? Should we like pressure Mark right now into booking a ticket?
Yes, Mark.
Yeah.
Mark,
no, it's all good. Yeah. Dean, I think Dean replied back to a note that I'd sent him in 2023 saying.
I realized it was a 2023 note or something like that.
It was, yeah. I was saying, oh, sorry, I'm not going to make it. That was from last year. But I'm like, oh, should I go this year? Anyway.
Yes,
Hey,
yes, you should.
I'm Mark Delora. I come from the game industry.
That's right. Hello.
But
Well-
these days, mostly focusing on kind of playful learning kind of stuff that crosses between games for learning and computer science education, and lately, generative AI.
Yes.
Nice to be here.
It's great to have everybody here, and of course in this new format, which I'm loving right now. Of course, I told Mark I got into the studio this morning. I'm like, oh, let me get everything fired up, make sure everything's working. Let me double check some audio, and there was echoes galore. And I'm like, how the hell is all of this crap not being routed properly right now? So it's like an hour and a half long technical dissection of everything, but I think we have it good. I think everyone should be able to, hear some good sound effects being popped in. That's right. And of course,
Excuse me.
there you go. Of course, link there. But anyway, so we're going to continue to pump this stuff out. And one of the other things that I did find out was because the Boss Rush channel on YouTube is new and we haven't live streamed there before, YouTube requires from the time you ask to live stream a 24-hour waiting period before you're allowed to actually stream. So I didn't know that. And I went ahead and started this morning and then went, oh, crap, we can't live stream here till next time. But that's okay because now we're all set up for it and it's all good. It's all good. So, yeah, I will not be at the GameSpeed Summit. We are in the middle of graduation season here. In our household. So we just went down and celebrated my daughter who graduated from Virginia Tech summa cum laude. And she is going to be off to Manhattan in the end of July to go work for IBM. So it's a very weird ass place to be right now.
Not falling far from the tree, clearly.
There you go,
Yeah, what a slacker.
Yeah, exactly. And then my son is also going to Virginia Tech. So he's graduating high school and he just finished up. And so we're in the throes of all of that. And then Dean, your daughter just announced on LinkedIn that she just got a job working in the games industry. So proud papas all the way around.
Yeah.
Where's she going, Dean?
She's going to Skybound in LA. So
To where?
Skybound in LA.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
Nice.
That's so
Great
nice.
gig.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
fantastic.
good. Yeah. Now she
That
can't
is-
talk to me anymore. So.
See, but now there's going to be more Takashi's running around the games and it's like, oh, here we go now. Bumping into you everywhere.
Yeah, well, I
kinda
love
like
that we didn't scare her off. Like can be a thing.
Yeah.
Instead, we found
For
the
sure.
love. So
For
that's
sure.
awesome.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and start jumping into some news. Dean, why don't you go ahead, as always, not as Dean, as always, Dean, why don't you go ahead and lead us off on what is the biggest pressing stories that you're finding this week?
Well, I actually had fun coming up with an exclusive this week in an interview with Lee Guinchard, who's the CEO of Embracer Free Mode, and we talked for about 3 hours about games that could be based on The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit that are coming. So they have sorted out, I guess, what they want to do, and talked to all the relevant parties. One of the things they did was license this Lord of the Rings game or movie that Peter Jackson is going to be making, the Lord of the Rings, The Hunt for Gollum. So it is I don't know, still in the third age space. And I wrote a story also about how the intellectual property rights are divided up as well. And so they're working with Warner Brothers and Peter Jackson again on films. That license comes through Middle-earth Enterprises, which Embracer bought in 2022 for $395 million, which seems like a steal when it comes to an IP that has sold more than 250 million books over time and had $6 billion movies already as well. So they're getting a new cycle going, and that's great to hear that they're going to do transmedia basically. And more movies, probably more games related to them, although they haven't announced any big games. There's one that was licensed as a trio of smaller games. The Tales of the Shire is coming out this year, and then there's a anime movie called War of the Rohirrim coming this fall. So
Yeah.
and then Peter Jackson's movie they announced will be coming in 2026. So the first one, first multiple movies, I guess.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's great. I mean, and Amazon Game Studios is also working with the team
right.
on that.
Mm-hmm.
And when you talk about transmedia properties, I'm so glad we're starting to see so much more of this because with The Last of Us really kind of setting the tone for what does AAA video, right, or programmatic shows look like around video game properties. Then we had Fallout behind it, Borderlands movies coming out, and then Amazon Game Studios actually just announced the next Tomb Raider game, and then the Tomb Raider show that's also being produced by Amazon Studios.
Also licensed by Embracer Free Mode as well, since they own the Tomb Raider IP. So, yeah, that's exciting to see these intellectual properties in motion.
Yeah, and so video games are no longer a nice marketing thing for the rest of Hollywood to use, right? Which is the way it's the way it had been for such a long period of time. So it's wonderful to see these properties really expanding past their initial kind of introduction implementation that the world had known them as, and starting to move into all forms of media. So really, really encouraging. Really, really encouraging.
Yeah. And let's see what else was news. Let's see. There were earnings this week from both Sony and from Take-Two. Take-Two announced that the next Grand Theft Auto 6 is coming in the fall of 2025. So that's going to create such a blast radius that nobody else is allowed to launch anything in the fall of 2025. But yeah, there was an analyst firm that said in a note that they expect the sales to be 1.3 billion, kind of right off the bat, and probably $3 billion coming in to Take-Two, above and beyond what they normally do in a fiscal year. So that's a big game.
Yeah. I mean, that is an event, right? It's not just a game. It is a full ass event. That's good. That's going to be happening,
Yeah. So that's going to be like, if people aren't feeling good by that time, I think that's one of those feel good moments that's going to come for the game industry.
Yeah.
So, yay. Let's see. Well, Ubisoft also had their earnings today. They canceled the Division Heartland, which was a big free-to-play effort, I guess. Right. But they did announce a bunch of games. Assassin's Creed Shadows is the next Assassin's Creed game coming this fall, and it features an African-American or African descent main character set in the world of samurais in Japan. So everybody's been sort of begging for Assassin's Creed to go into Japan. It's so ninja-like already, right? So that's coming on November 15th, and it should be fun. And yeah, oddly enough, there are objections to the main character that came up on Twitter, and everybody is coming back and sort of saying, this is historically accurate. So there was such a person, and it's actually a historical main character that is in this game.
Hey, Dean, don't let facts get in the way of people, wanting to complain about something. Just
yeah, so that should be interesting.
Has everyone played the Assassin's Creed game? Have you all played through Assassin's Creed games before?
I played them. I sort of rarely these days get all the way through them, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've mostly played the Discovery Tour stuff, which I think is amazing.
Yeah, I enjoy just being a tourist in these games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Me too. Go explore the world, see all the interesting things. Yeah. I'm with you.
Yeah. So they're always amazingly great world building.
Yeah, I feel the same way about like the Harry Potter games that came out. It's just like,
Oh, yeah,
you know,
right.
you just want to run around the grounds and
Yeah.
see how everything is connected.
Yeah.
And every once in a while, a gameplay thing happens. But yeah, I'm kind of happy to be a tourist in there too.
Yeah.
Didn't Ubisoft open up a new studio somewhere? I think or a new office. Maybe it was in like Barcelona. Is that what it was?
I'm trying to remember that piece of news. Activision also opened a new studio in Warsaw, Poland, and they say they've got different people from the Cyberpunk and series and others running that studio. They didn't say who's actually running it, just that they've opened it and they're hiring, which is I suppose what happens when you have such a large company that Microsoft last week decided to shut 3 studios, and here's one of their divisions, Activision, starting up a brand new studio.
Yeah.
So that's the way things run. And let's see. I don't know. Did you guys see other news that was interesting to you?
Susan.
No, I saw another. What is it? I saw Forte was shutting down a studio, or dramatically scaling back a studio, and cutting all their development. So I don't know what that's about.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
It feels like that's.
I know they raised like $800 billion or something like that a couple of years ago. So I'm just curious where it's all going. They're cutting all the development.
Yeah, I missed that piece of news.
Yeah. I forget the name of the studio. It's some Canadian studio. The ones that did Valorant, that studio.
Oh, yeah.
I forget the name of them. Announced that I think they're down to 40 people now from 200 people or something like that. Forte had acquired them. Yeah. So I don't know what that's about. Obviously, lots of that. I'm just not quite sure why Forte is canning all of their development.
Yeah, I think as I recall, they raised all this money, before everybody started hating on Web3 games and blockchain, right? In the Western sort of space, and it was before I think Ubisoft launched their NFTs for the Recon game, and it was so poorly received that all of the AAA companies sort of pressed pause, and they thought, maybe this thing that everybody's talking about, all of this, player ownership and all that, is not going to go over well, because gamers are so suspicious of new kinds of business models, right? They think it's a way for them to get scammed, and Forte raises money before that, and I think their focus was going to be on all these AAA game companies, right? And so that's why they raised so much, or how they were able to raise that much. And and I assume that we're seeing just consequences of this change. I think that came. Beyond that, I have no super insight.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
It seemed like they were positioning themselves as like the sort of, it was a centralized safe haven for big public game companies to be able to start to dabble in blockchain in sort of a safe, secure way.
That seems smart.
So meanwhile, on the smaller company front, though, Immutable Games this week launched Guild of Guardians, which is a sort of action RPG mobile game. That's a hybrid Web 2 and Web 3 game, so they can get it out onto the app stores because it's Web 2 friendly, and they essentially enable players to opt into Web 3 if they go to the company's website instead of transacting inside the App Store. But they have to, sort of restrict the game. Like the features available have to be available to both the Web 2 people and the Web 3 people. But I started playing it, and it's actually pretty fun. So I got some hours into grinding away into a dungeon, and it was in the works for 4 years. And about a year and a half ago, Chris Clay came over to run the project, and he also made Gods Unchained for Immutable Games, and he also was the lead creator on Magic the Gathering Arena as well. And so very big experience in sort of this space. And they had a large team, definitely dozens of people making this mobile game over 4 years. And it's, I think it's, a very interesting Web3 game that has shipped, right? So I think we're seeing some games come out of this sort of long tunnel, I think.
Yeah, I had a chat earlier this week with a friend at Xbox who talks to a lot of developers, and they commented that they thought that this current trend was going to run probably through the end of this year before it turns around. I know we've gone back and forth. Other people have said, fall, that kind of thing, but they were like, probably 2025. It's disconcerting.
Which trend you mean?
Just all
the layoff trend?
Yeah. Layoff.
Yeah, in fact, like yesterday, Phoenix Labs also announced they were shutting down all game development and laying off most of their staff as well. Up in Seattle. So, yeah.
Yep.
Sad to see that for sure. And yeah, they had some, bigger games in the works. Fae Farm was the one that shipped.
Oh yeah, right. Oh, yeah. I didn't put those two things together in my head.
Yeah. And I did get to interview Strauss Zelnick from Take-Two this week. Asked him about the funk in the game industry question. And he was not so sort of pessimistic about the state of where, at least I did get to interview Strauss because I asked him specifically that AMD had forecast that their second half was probably going to be worse on game chips than their first half was.
Right.
Their first quarter was down 48%, right? And so compared to a year ago, so he doesn't necessarily think that we're in the sort of decline part of the cycle. He knew that, say, IDG predicted that consoles were going to grow from 81 million to 118 million in the next gen console space, and so he thinks that's still pretty healthy console growth happening. But we'll see. I mean, Newzoo came out with their revised numbers for 2023. Yeah. Their total number was forecast. It was actually down slightly from what they forecast, about 184 billion, and they had expected 187 billion. So,
not bad.
But yeah, I don't think anybody's super optimistic about the current state of growth. But Strauss was not as worried as I thought he might be. Right. So,
interesting. Did you guys see the ESA Essential Facts that came out this week?
Yeah.
That's always interesting. I appreciate seeing that data and the fact that they've been doing that report now. I think that's the 21st of those reports. That track the demographics and it's focused on the U.S. industry, of course, but it's such useful data. I always find myself referring to it.
61% of Americans play games at least 1 hour a week. So that's it's been sort of like a stable number. I think it's been about there for quite a while. But it's 190.6 million people, which is big when you think about how big games.
They're all playing Monopoly Go, aren't they?
Oh my God, that game.
Uh,
You know me, I'm not the biggest mobile game player, but man, the
Uh-huh.
compulsion loop that they have for that game.
mhm.
Oh my goodness. Just really, it's, oh,
need a
what's
Monopoly
blinking
Go
now? Oh
Metaverse
my god, all
crossover.
this stuff is animated. It's just like, oh, it's firing up every freaking neuron in my brain every time I turn it on. It's very addictive.
I like how the sound effects, they just remind me of like walking through a Las Vegas casino. Everybody's adopted all those like major chord happy sounds.
Exactly.
Like, oh, I feel so good playing this game. Boop, 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 boop.
Yep. But Adam Starcaster here in the comments brings up a couple of really good points here, and something we've talked about, I think, before, are things like consumer fatigue, right? Just the sheer amount of content that's available to us now across every vector of entertainment. Do you all ever feel a bit overwhelmed by just the amount of choice that you have and the amount of content that's available? And I'm not, for the record, saying we have too many games. We don't have too many games. We don't have too much video, right? That's we can't, because we still have a gazillion stories to tell. But as you're trying to find things, do you find that for yourselves, is that kind of the case? Just don't know where to.
Yeah, it's a good question to ask. I remember when I was a little kid thinking, oh, someday we might have 500 channels on the TV. That's crazy. Well, all I do, that's amazing. Now what I know what I'll do is I'll follow people who have similar interests as me and try what they like. And that helps me out a lot. And I'll try to share with others in case others, find that they have similar interests as me. There's always way too much stuff. And, half the stuff on the streaming services I have zero interest in. The good news is half the stuff still means there's like thousands of shows. So right. There's lots of stories.
Yeah.
Same for games. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm behind already on playing Homeworld 3, which I was supposed to play for a while, but I was busy organizing this darn conference. And then Hellblade 2 debuts on the second day of our conference. And so I have not touched the review copy that I have in advance of the launch. But Hellblade 2 should be really good, I think.
I'm looking forward to playing the new patch of Diablo. Apparently, it's fixed the game.
Oh yeah,
it fixes it.
Yeah, that's what I'm told.
Yeah, I think one of the news articles, Susan, was like Diablo 4 finally playable or something like that.
Something like that. Yeah. I had a lot of fun playing it, but it's been very broken. There've been so many problems with it, and they've apparently completely overhauled the food system. I haven't played in months, so I'm very excited. I've patched it. I'm ready to dig in.
Nice.
Listen to that Die Hard. She's like, I'm coming back. I've been away for 2
months.
months.
We've been playing it together since the beginning. I remember playing the first Diablo, and we even got our son playing it. So I've been, I'm
here she comes.
I love it.
That's right. Susan's coming at
I've got to jump Susan in her time zones. So I'm sorry to jump. But Dean, I'm gonna
nice to see you.
Like that.
No, but Dean, I'm gonna see you soon. Hopefully, I've bullied Mark Delora into coming. We'll see.
Thanks,
come on, Mark.
Come on, Mark.
Let's go.
And Chris, I'll miss seeing you there, but I completely understand why. And
I will miss you all too. Hopefully, I'll be able to come back to GamesBeat next. Dean, happy to go ahead and help there again. So, Susan, congrats on your citizenship journey as well. I think that's fantastic. And I'm sorry I'll miss you at the show, but I'll see you.
Sorry, you didn't say which countries is it?
The UK. So I'll be a dual citizen in the UK and the US.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Coming soon, Estonia.
That's right.
It's gonna collect them all.
All right, Susan.
Bye, everybody.
All right, have a great rest of your day. Great weekends ahead, Lee.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, see you. Bye-bye. All right, Susan Zassin, we're just going to be left with her static.
Yeah,
Get nothing but static from my attic from Channel Z. That is a very old Fred Schneider. And, all Perhaps
So
B-52
back
is
to some
referenced there.
ESA stuff. They noted that back in 2012, 33% of people played games on their mobile devices.
Well, let's take a look at that.
And now in 2024, it's 78%.
Yeah,
so
right.
Very interesting. They also noted that the Gen Alpha, which is after Gen Z, about 79% of them are playing games as well. And they did this survey in the range of 5 years old to 90 this time. They had like a lot of sort of parent supervised kids who were participating in the poll. And so it was, they had some interesting, I think, data. People are definitely starting out younger. And then the largest group of gamers is actually over 50 years old now. It's 29% of the whole group of gamers.
Damn right.
Way up, way up from what it used to be.
You're damn right.
Interesting spread.
Now you got me pulling up the 2004 essential facts just for giggles, and it doesn't even mention mobile. I think it's like
it said in 1999 it was only 9% of players were over 50.
Wow.
And now 29% are. So.
Yeah.
Nice,
Imagine that. We didn't stop playing games as we got older.
Yes, sir.
Because they're awesome.
Surprise, surprise. Well, no, they're for only, 12-year-old antisocial boys in the basement. Like,
I'm still a 12-year-old antisocial boy. It doesn't change much. I mean, if you see this Pikachu, still 12.
See, I wore this shirt just for you today. There we go.
Awesome.
My 25th anniversary one. I don't have my Nintendo hoodie on yet. Which anytime I wear this stuff drives my wife nuts. She's like, what are you doing? Like, oh, we're live stream today.
You guys paying attention to the Google conference this week? See what's going on? Or the OpenAI announcement?
Paying
I
attention
did not go. One of our AI writers went, but Ken Young was there. So I didn't pay attention to it.
He's like, I didn't have to pay attention to it. Why? Mark, tell us. Give us the recap. What about the Google conference has you thinking about it?
What has me excited about it?
Yep.
You know what? I'm more excited about the OpenAI announcement, I have to say. I mean, Google's got all sorts of awesome stuff. They talked about moving more AI stuff into Android, which I'm a big fan of. And they're going to change up search, and they're going to add some editing functions into the camera functions. All this stuff is great. And I was like, yes, and yes, but it did feel a little bit like yes, it's kind of what I expected. And then OpenAI, the day before this event, which was kind of hilarious, OpenAI came out with a new model, the ChatGPT 4o, and said it's immediately available, and it's going to be a free tier, and it's going to have voice at some point, and there's a Mac app, there's not a PC app yet. And I was like, heck yeah, and I went there immediately and started farting around with it. And there are some things that are definitely better than the ChatGPT 4 model. I'm noticing it's faster. I did within the span of about 10 minutes manage to get it to make stuff up. So that's, it's just a function of LLMs. They're going to do that. They're going to give you answers that aren't quite reality. Mm-hmm. If you use them for creative tasks, that's probably no big deal. I'm trying to use them as like an educational tutor. So my big question is, to what extent can you trust a big model to successfully be a tutor? Mm-hmm. And if I can't trust it, do I need to use a big model? Maybe I can use a smaller, cheaper model, and and maybe that's fine, or layers of smaller, cheaper models. So lots of questions, but the voice part I'm super interested in. If you watched any of the
I did
event. Mm-hmm. I mean, that model, I don't think that voice model is available yet, or at least I didn't find it.
The Scarlett Johansson
model? Yeah, the one that sounded exactly. It sounded amazing. I mean, I've heard there's obviously some great voices out there in terms of generated voices. The 11 Labs stuff is amazing. Even the natural voices for the narrator on Windows, if you've ever tried out the new natural voices, I mean, they're mind-blowing. They sound amazing. And ChatGPT 4 sounds fine, but everything's getting better and better on that front. So yeah, just a good week, I think, for AI related stuff. There was also what was the other AI thing that came out? Senator Schumer. Sorry, this is going to turn into AI channel.
Well, hold on
here.
a minute. Let's but before we did, let's also mention that yes, I do think that having smaller models that are trained on very specific sets of data for specific use cases, right? So you don't muddy it, right, with creating that. The problem is, where do you go ahead and figure out which LLMs are the best to use in that regard? I would be remiss if I didn't mention that Amazon Bedrock allows you to go ahead and use multiple LLMs on one platform. You can build your own as well, and you can create subsets all on a common platform. So the whole idea is that you can then choose the model that best fits a particular use case or type that a use case that you have, and use multiple models within the same application or within the same kind of profile to do different things. What's really cool was, I don't know if we discussed this, but there's an AWS guy over here named Banjo who went ahead and took like the 8 models, I think, that are on there, and then he had an all play Street Fighter 3.
Oh wow.
And see which ones performed the best, and then wrote up this huge blog post on. Oh,
I didn't see that. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's really, really cool. It was really, really cool. And some of the questions are, oh, well, is this going to get rid of Q8? No, it's not going to get rid of Q8. But you can then have these models that are banging away on a problem that surface issues, because the things that a model can't tell you, that absolutely QA, which is super important, right, in the final delivery of the game, is, this thing is breaking, or we fixed this thing that broke, but is it fun? Like, does it work? Does it make sense? Like, that's what AI can't do, right? So again, we can use this thing to hammer away, find more bugs, find more anomalies, and then test to make sure that they should be part of the game. Or is it really a bug, right, type of thing? But really, really
if you have a link to that article, you gotta share it.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and pop that up right now.
Search for anything with like Amazon and then something, and you do not get an article.
It's almost as if we're all over the place, but
we have one of our fun talks at the GameSpeed Summit with Will Wright about AI, and it's very, very interesting to see what Will gets curious about, right? And he created The Sims, right? And that was so long ago now that now he's very curious about some of the real practical AI technology. So he's going on stage with some the CEO of Numenta, which is Jeff Hawkins' sort of brain research company that came up with software that does a lot of AI. And so he wants Will, I think, is figuring out how to make use of this in his latest game. Proxy is underway, and I do find it interesting when you have someone who's like one of the leaders of the game industry like that take this very big interest in just sort of the intellectual challenge of AI. That should be a lot of fun. AI is going to be quite a few different places in the conference.
And did you hear Jamil has left InWorld?
Oh no!
It's just in the last few days, I think. Yeah, he just announced it a couple days ago. I'm not sure what the story there is.
Jamil Maladina.
Yeah. I mean, he was everywhere. He was working so hard, talking about using AI for NPCs.
Yeah, I know that he joins. He shows up here frequently, so I don't know if he's listening right now. But
there's InWorld AI doing the AI characters, but also I think Convey is doing them as well. We got the Convey CEO coming to speak too, and they're doing the they sort of spun out of NVIDIA and have a lot of support from NVIDIA as well, and they did the demo of the sort of character in the ramen shop that NVIDIA was showing off a lot as well.
Awesome.
So we'll see how these startups do. I mean, I think everybody's still figuring out all the right tools that AI is going to go into.
Yeah, and it's all shifting so fast. I mean, just looking at the models and how many models. I mean, if you ever go on Hugging Face and look at the LLM leaderboard, it's like new models at the top of the leaderboard every few days. It seems like so. There's still so much churn in the space.
Yeah.
I
mean, that is the fastest moving set of technology advancements I can remember, right? I mean, we sometimes liken it back to when the browser first, appeared in '94, and everyone's building all this crazy stuff. This is just going, exponentially faster.
Yeah.
Right.
I
think we were 2 years ago.
I happened to do a story this week on the server CPU design company Ampere Computing, and they announced that their chip family is going to hit 256 cores next year, after coming out with 192 cores last year, all for AI processing. They had a chart on data center energy efficiency, getting 2.3 times worse from 2022 to the expected state in 2026. And so energy efficiency of these chips is becoming much more important now, because the data centers are becoming energy hogs. So,
I mean, the move to things that are ARM based, right? We can get,
which is
exponentially more cores, and we can not sacrifice speed, but also have much lower power consumption. We can create more efficient packaging of these things, put them into place, and then you need to have on the back end of that, obviously porting software or emulation layers that allow you to go ahead and take advantage of those things. But it's critical. I mean, the growth and requirement of CPU, of data center overbuild stuff is just going to continue to increase. So we have to use the same footprint in a much more efficient way, right? And so everybody, the industry is leaning into that right now.
Yeah, I also think it's another good argument for trying to use smaller LLMs for tasks if you can. Just because you're not going to use as much power. Also, if you're paying somebody to utilize it as a service, still because it's up in a cloud, it's going to cost you less money. But this is a difficult thing that I don't think we really have explored much yet. I always want to use the biggest and best, fastest. But if I'm building an app, if I'm building a game and I'm using a cloud AI service, and my game's now hits 1 million people or something, like, I'm going to get a big bill from my cloud server.
But also to the point, like we talked about, when you have very specific data that fits in very specific rules, do you need to train those models on all of this extraneous data? Probably not, right?
Yeah.
Especially for application development, programming, models and things like that.
Yeah. Got to hire some real smart AI engineers and not just use the big, giant, fancy model for everything.
Yeah, you can't. We can't, because think about the percentage of people that are actually touching those AI models today versus what happens when the general public is doing this in the billions, right? Like it doesn't scale, right? You can't do that. So.
I think that Street Fighter article that you linked to is a great case of that. I noticed that there was a chart comparing LLM versus LLM every battle. Like, that's kind of what you want to do, right? You're like, okay, which one of these is good at the thing that I want? Okay, great. I'm going to try to use that one.
Yeah. And it was Claude 3 Haiku that actually won. But here's the thing that I did ask the author of the paper. I said, did you use the same prompting for all of the models? The answer was yes.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, so now if you understand how those models are best prompted, do you need to then change the way you're prompting them? And the answer is yes. It's like, okay, so now we're dealing in the kind of the human reflection side of these models of, it was trained this way, with a certain set of linguistic rules and patterns and the type of thing. You now have to understand how they speak. It's like speaking multiple languages now.
It reminds me so much of managing a team of people. Like, you tell the same thing to 10 people on your team, you're going to get 10 different results. You got to know. It's like all about communication, right?
Yeah. Sean Layden just put one up this morning. It was replace the elephant with AI, and it showed like all these people. It's like somebody at the front of the elephant going, "Oh, the elephant is long and skinny," and somebody and down at the leg going, "Oh, the elephant is like a tree trunk," right?
Oh my
And then
God, that's great. I
somebody
love it.
who's like in a
Good
pile
job,
of crap
Sean.
is like, "The elephant is soft and squishy." You're like, no.
That's a smell.
Yeah, I was
I
like,
love
"That's great. That's great."
it.
All right. So, what other big news do we have? Let's talk about
Mhm.
some of the games that are coming
Yeah.
out or announced. And Dean, you talked about the
Oh,
Lord of the
Homeworld.
Rings stuff. Mark, go ahead.
Homeworld 3.
Oh,
Woohoo,
there is
Homeworld
one
3.
got announced. Sorry, Honor of Kings, which has already had $15 billion in revenues. Came out in what 2017 or so. It also has 200 million users. Is now getting its global rollout.
What?
And you go, what does this mean? And so like they it's coming from China and Tencent and Level Infinite and Timi Group, Timi Studios, and they made it for China, and they shipped a version of it where they changed the name, like Arena of Valor, right? And, apparently, it just didn't sort of catch on as well as maybe expected in the West. So June 20th, now they are essentially relaunching it, I guess, as Honor of Kings. So the same game, same name, now a global game, which, funny enough, at its launch is going to have 200 million users.
Right. All of whom are experts at playing it. So come join us.
So we'll see how many more they can get by actually, like, it was 2015 launch, but let's see how much more they can get with the global launch now, or the global version of the game.
Man,
that's crazy, huh?
That is crazy. That is crazy. Yeah, it's going to throw all of those. If we don't look carefully at it, it's going to throw all of those numbers off. Look, it launched with 200 million people playing just immediately.
Maybe if it does really well in the U.S. government can force them to sell it to a U.S. company.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Crazy things can happen.
Sorry, that was snarky.
There was another smaller piece of news from Typical Gamer. I became aware of him because he's a creator. He's been creating games on UEFN, Fortnite, and he's had a lot of success. But he noticed that there is a lot of sort of foul play on UEFN, where different rival game makers, the UGC makers, are throwing DMCA takedowns at each other. And so, like, the problem with that is that under like, U.S. law, when you get hit with one of those, you have to suspend the service, right? And so this works perfectly in something like UEFN, when you see like a rival game rising in the ranks, and it's like, it's kind of a copycat, it's like the Pit was the game involved here, and that Pit style is getting copied all over Fortnite. And if you hit them with a DMCA at the right time, you freeze their progress, and then they're not growing anymore. 10 days later, they get to go back up, and then at that point, you may have served your purpose of stopping their growth. Right. And so he noticed this and complained about it. And Epic is starting to take the fake takedowns very seriously, and say there's going to be consequences for anybody who does that.
Sure.
And so the Typical Gamer has now invested $2 million in Jogo, which is his own UEFN studio. So he's formalizing something he's been doing. And this is interesting because Typical Gamer, I haven't mentioned so far, has 25 million followers on YouTube.
Wow.
Say that again.
That's
so Jordan Fragan did this story for us. He has 25 million followers on YouTube.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Or perhaps I'm wrong, but on all his channels, I think he has 25 million.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
So people like that, creators are creating their own games, and they have built-in audiences for these games.
Well, I mean, Steve Fowler here in the chat said, I work with Future Trash, UFN game dev, who launched a pit style game that got served. It's really messy.
Oh,
Yeah, that's terrible.
Uh-huh.
You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Ugh. Well, hopefully, you know.
something wrong about that law, I guess, where
yeah. There
the
needs to be some
immediate
policy
first
shifts.
thing that happens is you have to suspend whatever the accused is doing, and that becomes like you're guilty before innocent.
Yeah, that seems backwards.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, you
Yeah.
got to prove that it's true
Mhm.
before you can.
Also,
you know.
like when like people were pointing out that this controversy involving the pit game. The pit was invented years ago inside Minecraft, right? So somebody essentially stole that idea and brought it into Fortnite, right?
Yeah.
Wait.
Hey,
What?
wait, we're the first ones to do this on Fortnite. And we should be able to throw DMCA's at everybody else, right? And all these other people are unfairly copying this.
Fortnite, the game that's a copy of what was the other game? It was Battle Royale.
Yeah. So I mean, this is
PUBG.
like one of the consequences of UGC that I was just not expecting, right? It's like, hey, my copy came first, so you can't copy my copy because I came before you.
It's curious to me. I'm running down a rabbit hole in my head on this. Like, if you wanted to make a policy shift on the DMCA to apply to this, like, my first thought was, well, Epic should kind of like support the community and like do some running on this. But then, like, really, the ESA is the organization that's set up to do that. But they're not really designed as an organization that really like focuses on this particular sector.
Yeah, they should go after some kind of legal fix for this.
Yeah.
A lobbying group like the ESA is really built for that.
Yeah. And especially, getting ahead of it now before those companies become huge and part of the ESA. It's like, well, okay, lean in and use
that's probably
that
the right
strength
answer.
to
I hope
they just put some kind of legal penalty in for false takedown. Violence, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I was sitting here staring at other news again, as you do.
Yes. As one does. Yes.
And just one thing that I missed, which sounded kind of interesting, was Sarah Bond, so Xbox president Sarah Bond, was talking about the Xbox mobile gaming store coming soon, which I did not know was a thing that was going to exist in July. It's going to launch with Candy Crush on Minecraft. There's like 4 things in that sentence that blow my mind. I'm excited. It'll be really interesting to see.
It will.
Yeah. We'll see what kind of traction they can get with their own app store, right? But competition should be good, and I think the interesting thing is how they land on top of Android phones and on top of iOS.
Right?
In what way are they able to do that versus in what way are they going to be hamstrung?
I wonder if some of it's streaming, right, versus
maybe
native.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to see.
Right?
Yeah, and that's a good idea. Actually, it's super leverageable. I mean, Steam never really went after. They could have made an Android game store, but they never really went after it. There's an Android Steam app, but it's not a place where you buy games for Android.
Right.
So that would be kind of interesting to see if Xbox were to go all in on Android. And this was probably mostly an iOS play, I'm guessing, because of the policy changes. But I would kill for a game-focused game store on Android. That sounds like a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it does sound like a great idea, Mark.
You have opinions about that, Chris?
Why don't you just rub some salt in that wound? Okay, how dare you, sir? You have basically just exposed my entire career of constantly trying to do this crap.
I just poke you in the belly.
Oh my goodness. There was some small news, but I had fun with it because I met Petri Alanko, who did the soundtrack for Alan Wake 2. And I moderated a session with him in Dubrovnik at Reboot. And he talked all about, making the soundtrack for Alan Wake 2, which is it's pretty good. It's a very interesting sort of hybrid between sort of horror on one side, but also just sort of more like suspense between the two different main characters. And
Mhm.
what was interesting was that he was also the guy who made the original soundtrack for Alan Wake, and they used him again. And so essentially he's been with this franchise now for like 20 years of his life, making Alan Wake 2 and Remedy music, right? And so can you imagine that? Like he mentioned that one piece of music that didn't get into Alan Wake 13 years ago, he saved it, and then he sprang it on Sam Lake, the creative director, and played it in one part and said, "I've got this piece that maybe you'll like." And then Sam recognized the music from 30 years ago, and he looks at him and he does like raises his eyebrow thing.
Like, I hated it then and I hate it now.
No, he just said, I did this copy first.
Yeah.
So I'm going to make sure that no other derivative copies are.
Yeah, so Petri Alonco there had this 20-year journey to get
That's amazing.
his Alan Wake soundtrack out. So,
I love that.
That
so
is
cool.
awesome.
yeah.
Well, some other game news too. This game Animal Well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's like exploding everywhere. I don't know much about it, but I love the aesthetic. So I think I'm going to dig a little further into that.
I don't know about this too. Like
Right.
what kind of game?
That is a great question. I will read you just a snippet here of after a few hours, it really starts to be felt. This game would be. Oh, shoot! Where's the rest of this here?
There's an animal.
Somebody also said this is more like a screensaver, glorified screen. No objective, too many places to go from the start. And there's nothing happening in any of these rooms aside for some minor puzzles. Like I said, this one just kind of, I don't know the background of it, but again, the aesthetic popped across my field of view, and I was like, oh yeah, people are talking about this. I need to go figure out what the hell it is. So yeah.
Yeah, I forgot. I totally meant to buy this. I'm gonna go.
See?
I'm gonna go pick it
Then
up.
why
right
don't
now.
you tell us what it is?
I will click on it. It looks insane and pixely and Metroidvania and and I'm gonna go click the buy button right now.
Yeah. Didn't the new Tomb Raider one, not Tomb Raider, Prince of Persia, that released, right? The side scrolling, the 2D one, the Metroidvania one.
Actually, there's one that's coming from Ubisoft, right? And then they did one earlier as well, and then an interesting group out of Abu Dhabi also did their own sort of Prince of Persia-like side-scrolling game too. So like,
I like that.
we've got like 3 side-scrolling games that are
Okay, right there you go. Yeah.
And the new Braid, new old Braid came out.
Yeah.
Right? Just talking about side-scrolling stuff. Braid, the anniversary edition came out this last week.
Yep. Yeah.
We're getting
the Prince of Persia Lost Crown Deluxe Edition.
Mhm.
That one is out, and you can try it now with a free demo from
That's
Ubisoft.
pretty high-end graphics, but Ubisoft also has like this more like classic kind of look to another Prince of Persia side scroller coming too. So very interesting.
Oh man.
And yeah, the one from the Abu Dhabi folks, it was 3 brothers who worked on the game for 8 years with no fundraising.
Oh yeah, here we go. The
amazing.
Rogue
That's totally amazing.
Prince of Persia. I have it up in the browser for those that are listening here. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So this one, right? The new action roguelite installment in the Prince of Persia series. Ooh, we've got nothing but lots of Prince of Persia popping up everywhere. So, great franchise.
I think I just spent $100 on Steam while I've been talking here. Damn it! Stop it! Stop talking about games.
Yeah, my apologies.
So the other side scroller is from a company called Cash Cool, which is Shiba: A New Dawn. This is sort of action RPG-ish kind of.
Is that a pun? Shiba Inu?
I was going to say Shiba Inu. Is that? is it tied into crypto somehow?
Shiba
Inu. Inu Dawn. I love it. Secretly, the developer's a dog fan.
While we've depressed everybody with our studio closure news, there was another studio opening this week called Midsummer Studios.
Yeah.
from folks out in Hunt Valley, Maryland. They spun
yeah.
out of Firaxis, and the Civ team and XCOM, former The Sims folks. A guy named Jake Solomon is CEO, and he is, he was the director on different Civ games over time, and XCOM as well. And so, yeah, he's gathered a lot of those folks, and is doing a life sim sort of game.
Right.
Something that he said is like kind of like a normal life simulator with lots of systems built into it. And so like he thinks you can get a lot of dramatic stories the same way you do out of like a strategy game or something, but in this case where the systems do things that maybe you're not expecting, and it feels like it's emergent things.
Just like real life.
What happens when you leave the water on in your bathtub?
Well, if it's in The Sims and you box them in, they drown. Right? Isn't that
But who would do that?
Yeah, that's right.
Oh my goodness. Well, we're gonna have to wrap up here in just a minute, but
all
I'll
right.
show you before we jump what I am going to be playing around with today.
Today at 3.
Here is the A500 Mini.
That sounds
So
amazing.
at 3 o'clock Eastern, we're going to be digging into the library of the A500 Mini, the Amiga 500. And this package is really awesome. Like, it came with a mouse, it came with a joypad as well. And then, of course, we've got some extra games on this USB drive that we're going to go ahead and pop in there, because what's really cool about the about these little systems is they right out of the box are like, hey, if you have your own games, bring them along and you can start playing right on the box on the game. So yeah, so 3 o'clock on the AWS for Games channels.
On Monday and Tuesday. Yeah, so you can
join me over there. How about you guys? What are you playing this weekend? Well, Mark, you got about $100 worth of new games to start playing. So.
Yeah. Homeworld 3, Animal Well,
I think I try to start Hellblade 2 before I have to go off to GamesBeat Summit.
Yeah.
You play on the plane.
Yeah.
That's right.
Thank you.
Well, Dean,
Awesome.
good
Thanks,
luck,
you all.
buddy, with the conference next week. I'm sure it'll be awesome as always. I know you have Warren Spector that's going to be out there talking, so that's fantastic. A really, really good get. And as you just said, Will Wright too. So once again, a testament to, not just the community that you built, but how you support the industry, right? And seeing so many awesome people coming out to support the conference is really great. So I'm thrilled for you, man. Really thrilled for you.
I'll have to do a prep call with Song Yi Yoon from NCSoft, who's speaking at our conference for the first time too. So,
nice.
Awesome.
Awesome. Good luck with that.
All right. Well, good. Everybody, that's going to wrap it up for this week on Boss Rush. Thank you so much for stopping by. Thanks to our host, of course, Dean Takahashi, Mark DeLora, and Susan Cummings for joining us again on this Friday. And we will see you next week on Boss Rush. Thanks, gang.
Bye. Have a good weekend.
That came out really good.
Yeah, that was nice.
It works out well. And I don't know if you were watching the live feed too.
Back and forth. Yeah, a little bit.
So I don't know if you saw any of the